Hi guys, Tanya here. We are going to make another art journal page. So this is a lace journal page, what I like to call a lace journal page. It is a cutout page using some stencils with a background that it's just a unique, different kind of a page. It's kind of fun to do. I've been inspired by Tracy Scott, so she has with PaperArtsy. She has several kind of lace pages, little booklets that she has sold through PaperArtsy before. So I thought I would make my own. It's going to take a couple of days to create, but I will kind of put it together, and it's kind of fun. Tries a little bit of a patience, but I think the end result is just absolutely gorgeous. Okay. So we are going to use this Classics journal. So this is a Diane Reevely Dylusions Classics journal. It is her journal that has multiple pages in it. So it has this craft paper in it. It has this her typical white pages in it. Not white, like off white and then black pages. We are going to use 2 of the craft pages. So you're going to want to make sure, and you don't have to use craft. You could use whatever art journal pages you want, but we're going to have like four craft pages together. So we kind of need all 4 of those together to make it kind of blend together. So in that craft journal, we're also going to use PaperArtsy paints. Surprise, surprise. I have a couple, kind of my color palette here. We have Snowflake, Aquamarine, Deep Sea, Sugar Plum, Sour Grapes. I will list these in the description box below, but we'll use that. We have stencils. I have a couple of stencils that we'll use. This main one is our kind of main design, is PS307. So this is, we'll trace around it and use it to cut out that the main design of the lace page. For our background, I'm using this, it is PS225, so we use some of these flowers. This one as well is PS199. Okay, we'll use these designs here. And this dot one, PS246 here, and then I believe I use this one, PS272. Okay, so a couple of stencils, just the main design. These are for the background, so if you have any background stencils that you want to use, you can use that. We are going to use to put into kind of a stencil. I'm going to use some of these. This is kind of a Ranger foam to put your stencils on. You can use a makeup sponge, you can use a blending tool. I just happen to use this. I also grabbed some parchment paper. So parchment paper is really helpful when I'm drawing or doing something so I don't get it on the back design. So I'll just use some parchment paper. You can use scrap paper if you want. We will also be using some pens, so lots of pens. We have Posca, this Posca pens in 3 different nibs. I have a food ball pen, 1.5, so this is really helpful with kind of tracing a wider line. I'm going to use a Uni-ball eye pens. There's a micro and a fine. A white pen, this is Signo, Uni-ball Signo white gel pen, one of my favorites to use. A X-acto knife, pencil, and an eraser and a ruler, which for me is odd for me to use a ruler. Okay, so just kind of measure those frames out. I'm also going to use, in this decoration, I'm going to use a little bit of this Circle Master template. You can get a lot of these at like the art stores, or I think they use it for like designs, but yeah, I'll use these little circles. Okay. I will use a kind of a self-healing mat. This is a little Primo one. Just as I'm cutting through the page, I don't want to cut more than one page, so I'll be using one of these in the background. And then some background stamps. So I think they're just random background stamps that I have a bucket of, old kind of Prima stamps. So we'll see that when we get there. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed putting together. It took a long time. It's kind of tedious work, but the end result is quite beautiful. Okay, so get your art journal ready and let's get started. So I picked out this craft paper just kind of in the middle of my art journal here. I have my handy dandy ruler, and you can use whatever size or make your borders as thin or thick as possible to help me with kind of the painting that I'm going to do. So the cutout of this pattern is going to be cut out on this side, right? So when we flip it open, this side is going to be cut out. So when we place this over this side, right, this is what's going to be painted and what's the background. So I want to measure out what my border is so I know where to paint. I measured out, I don't know what the size is, but the size of my ruler. So the size of my ruler on all 4 sides of the paper. Okay, so I did that on all 4 sides. I also did that on all 4 sides of the 4th paper. Right, so this is number 4. This is number 3. This is number 2. This is number 1. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So all of those paper I did the border. So you just take your pencil and your ruler. I did that because it's kind of boring to watch me do that. Okay. So that's the first step. The second step, what I picked out to be the pattern is this mandala. So this is going to be my main pattern. So here, I've already kind of cheated and tested it out a little bit. But what I did was I put this stencil against this line. So here's my border that we just did, right? So I made that border. I lined this up, so this line right here on the stencil, on the edge of on the line, right? Matched it up on the line. I took my pencil and I drew inside the line, right? So I drew it in. So there's that stencil. I turned it, I matched it up, right? So this line goes against the line of the edge, and I drew inside the stencil. Okay, so that's the edge of what I get. So obviously it's not a full circle. The circle, or the paper, is not big enough for that full circle. So I did it halfway. There's a little bit of a border on the inside. I could have smushed it together, but I didn't. Then I have the same. I did the same over here. I matched up, and actually I did it this way. I matched up the, right, so here's this stencil, turned it around, did the same thing, and drew all of that out. Okay, so I have an idea. So here's it all sketched out. So here is the pattern. So here comes the next part. So you could paint this here and then cut it out later. I'm going to keep this as a craft because I want to do kind of black and white penwork on this craft work where it works really well. And then these colors will be in the background, so it'll pop it a little bit more with this brown on top. Okay. So next step is you take your handy dandy little knife. So I have an X-acto knife here. Make sure that you are very careful and don't cut yourself. I have a mat that I'm going to put in between here, right here, so that I can cut around this, cut all of these pieces out. That's the fun part. I'll cut this out and I'll film it, but I'll not be talking. I'll put some music on so you can watch me do it because it's a little bit tedious. I probably won't show you the whole thing, but I'll at least start it a little bit to show you kind of how I started cutting those pieces out. Okay, so that's the second step. First step is to sketch it all out. You want to sketch out what your design is, okay, and you can place it lengthwise. You can do it however you want. I could cut all of this out on the edge and have kind of the background there, but that's what we're going to do so that the paint, your background, is going to peek inside of this stencil that I cut out. So that really didn't take me too long, actually. Oh, I missed one right there. So you want to think about like the intricate design that you chose, but this shows you a little bit of what that background will look like, right? So it'll sit on top. We'll paint the background underneath here, so we'll be able to see kind of what's back there. I like to cut it out first and then paint. I don't know, just to visualize it, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out this side. I'm not going to film it because it's the same thing. So we'll be right back. Okay, now I have all of this cut out. It took me a while. You can see with this background here, you can see where that's going to lay. So I have these two pages. So remember the border here I have with that page, and then kind of matched up on the other side. Okay, so now what I want to do is tape off this border. I only want to paint on the inside of this frame. So I'm going to take some tape. So this is painter's tape. You can also use like purple tape. You can also use masking tape. You can use that. It is a little stickier than say painter's tape, unless you get like an artist quality tape. I don't know. There's a million tapes out there. You can also use washi tape, but washi tape sometimes is not tacky enough. And if you're painting, right, it may create like a seal. It may not create a seal, and the paint gets underneath, which it's not really that big of a deal, because we're going to do some penwork and whatever, but I think the cleanup is a little bit easier if, you know, if you have a good seal. So I'm going to take this paint through tape here, and I'm just going to paint around, or I'm going to tape around the edges so that I don't get paint underneath on my frame. Remember these colors. I'm going to, I may not use all of them, just kind of grab them. I'm going to, with my finger, because that's the best paintbrush that you have, right, is your finger. I'm going to get, this is my little handy dandy craft mat. I'm going to get that on the side, and I'm going to put just a little bit of paint on my finger, and I'm going to kind of create a background. So we're going to create the background with the paint. Then we're going to create more texture with a stencil. So I'll use some stenciling on top of that, and then maybe some drawing. So really what I'm creating is that background for what will peek behind this here, right? And some of those colors we may carry over here. I'm not going to paint this other side because I may do some drawing there, but really the lace pages is what kind of that background. Okay, so a little bit of paint. I will put these colors, the names of these colors, in the description box below. And let's go. some of these paints are more translucent, so this Beach Hut is a translucent paint color. So it's, right, you can see the difference between that and like the opaque of the Sugar Plum. So I'm gonna kind of let it dry a little bit, and then I'll go back in probably with the Beach Hut a little bit and over the top. Okay, that. So see, that is kind of what you're gonna see behind the scenes, but we're not done with it yet. So it looks like it's a hot mess, but it's not. It's not. It can be okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this side. So in order to protect the page, I'm gonna clip these two pages together. It's not a really big deal if paint gets on that side, but I don't want to deal with it. So I have a little handy dandy little clip. I'm going to clip that together and then try to just kind of hold that up as I do my paint here. Okay, so I darkened that up a little bit, and you can see because of the craft paper, like the colors here are not as bright. I hope you can see that. So I'm going to let this dry. I know it looks like a hot mess right now, but I'm gonna sit back and let this dry, and I'll be right back. It's all dry here. I'm going to keep this tape on because what we're going to do is add some stenciling. So I'm going to add some more texture on that. But if you can see here, look how cool that's going to be already. Look at that, already on its own. Totally dry. The best thing about PaperArtsy paints, they dry fairly quickly. And I'm doing this in the summer, so it dried, it's a little warm, so it dried a little bit better. Have stencils here that have different patterns on it. So here's a little little squares I could add some patterns to. I like this little one right here, not the big one because that will kind of conflict with our pattern, but I like this one here and this one here. This is PS 199, and then I don't know, potentially some of these kind of flowery, maybe like that one. So I have that. I have a sponge. And what I'm going to do is add some texture on the same color. There, the blue. So I want to bring out maybe some of that blue. So yeah, so I'm going to add some stencils. I have this little foam brush. This is that Ranger foam, craft foam. I'm going to add kind of buff and snowflake. So I'm going to put some highlights in it, probably with the snowflake. Because the buff, so the buff is almost the color of the paper, and that may tone it down a little bit, so I might add that. Let's use this one. So really, I'm going to go kind of in and around that same color to kind of highlight outside of it, to really make that shape stand out. And it'll be a subtle change because it is a transparent ink, so you can see kind of that. It's a little bit transparent. Okay. So that will give me, so it gives me some different textures. So look at the difference between the two. So you have your, right, so that's where we came from. So that's a big old blob. And now look, it's got some kind of pretty texture around that too. Okay, so we'll, I will repeat the same thing, similar thing over on the other side. Okay, so this is all dry, and I picked out a couple of background stamps. So I have this kind of grid looking stamp. I have this script stamp. So I believe, I won't even pretend where I know where this came from. I have no idea. It's just a little script stamp. And then I have this old one. I think this is a 49 in Market. This has this little line stamp. So it's hard to see because I've used them a lot, but it's just kind of this little, just kind of little texture liney thing. Use a black, so my Archival Jet Black ink, and then I'm also going to use potting soil. So brown kind of brings out the craft of the brown paper, and it kind of just adds a different type of texture. I'm going to use the script stamp, and I'm not going to use a block. I'm just going to you know, put the ink on it and ink it. So that's all of the texture I'm going to do outside of the Penwork. So I probably will add some Penwork. Let's take off the border and see what that looks like. The big reveal. Yeah, so look at that. Look at how, right, the lace goes through, adds another layer of paint here. So we're not done yet. So I'm going to just do some Penwork here because I don't really know what I'm going to do here. And that will help maybe help me get inspired. Okay, so I'm just going to take some Penwork and outline and highlight some of these things that I want to emphasize. I'm consistent with what I want to highlight because, right, like, so these are the pieces that I want to highlight. So I'm going to draw around those. I'm not going to highlight, say, the white ones. I may put white around those, and maybe the dots, right, I don't want to highlight because that'll help kind of pop out and give some more definition there as well. Okay, so there's that side of it. Finished all of the kind of pen work that I'm going to do here, right here. So I think I want to outline this, put somewhat of a frame on it, like a simple frame, maybe a thick line and a thin line. Okay, so I have Posca pens. So these are paint pens, like a 1mm tip. So it's like a bullet tip. And then this is a thinner line. And this is a 0.7, so it's a bullet shape. So I'm gonna make just a frame, and I'm gonna go like just above here, so that's like a 1/4 of an inch here. I'm gonna go above it. Okay. I'm gonna do the same here. Okay, so now I colored that in and I framed it in. It just tightens it up and makes it a more frame. So remember the frame that we made here. I'm going to do the same that I did before, and I'm going to take this thin marker and highlight that frame. And I'm going to shadow it. So I want to make it look like it's almost recessed, like it's sitting in the paper. I want to shadow this a little bit, so I have my handy dandy pencil, and I'm not sure if, like, I don't want to paint this all black, right? Because then you're going to paint it black, and then why didn't I just do it on a black piece of paper? But if you bring in the line, right? So your 3D, you may be able to see that. So your 3D line. Let's see if I can bring it in a little bit. So I want to shadow it. So if it's sitting outside of the paper, this, right, this edge is going to be shadowed a little bit here. And then this is going to be shadowed a little bit. So I'm just going to take this pencil. It's a Blackwing. It's just a regular old pencil, but it's going to smudge a little bit. So I want to add some shadow here because I don't want it to look like it is like it's just a piece of paper. Right, here's my smudger. So I'm just going to take my smudger and really just blend this out. Okay, so I just took a graphite pencil and I'm just going to go down and smudge this out. Just to add a little bit of highlight to it. My smudger's dirty, so this is just one of those paper smudgers. Okay, so now I have this kind of shadowy, so it looks like it's kind of sitting back a little bit. I'm going to take my pen, and I think I'm going to use, I'm going to try this food ball pen because it's got a 1.5 nib. And I'm going to trace around all of this. So I'm going to kind of outline the shape. So when I put it over the design, it kind of pops out a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to be doing that. I will put this paper behind it just so that it doesn't leave in the back because I can't follow it. But I'm going to pull you in a little bit more and just show you what I'm doing. Okay, so I did, not filming, but I did what, you know, all the coloring, the pen work I did on this side, I did it on this side. So I did that not kind of filming, but you can see I have the same kind of edging here. I'll pull you in a little bit. So I have, you know, a little bit of the detail work, but from a distance, you can see, you can kind of see that what that's going to look like on top. So I'm not done yet with the pen work. I'm going to add a little more detail. So I'm going to add some detail here. I have my white pen, so my white gel pen here, the Signo Broad. This is my favorite white pen. I still have my black, my little thin black Posca pen. And this Uni-ball pen, this micro pen. So I'm going to do some pen work, still doing the pen work to kind of bring out some of the, just some of the details there. So I'll film it, and then I will do the same on the other side, and we'll keep going. Okay, I'll bring you in a little bit. Now what I want to do is add a frame. So if you remember, we did a frame here. I'm not going to kind of attach these two together, so if you're flipping through my book, you'll be able to see both pages. I'm not going to do anything on this side of the paper, but I want to add a frame to kind of draw it all together. So like a thick frame on this side. So I have my handy dandy ruler. So I'm going to go out, so I'm going to try to do what I did before. And I'm going to go out 1/4 of an inch is going to be, there's going to be a space in between. So this is 1/4 of an inch in between. It looks like almost 1/2 an inch. I'll try to mirror that. So we'll add a frame here. So here we go. Okay, so that's it. That's our lace pages. We added our background pages here with the frame. We cut out the lace pages. You could use any stencil that you have, so get creative about what that looks like, and have fun, right? Have fun with it. So I hope that you are taking time to create art for you, even if it's a long, drawn-out page like this. Like and subscribe to find some more videos, and make art because you're worth it. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.